To order, it is 6 o'clock on June 12th. We have nothing to report from closed session. This meeting is recorded for live streaming and archiving in the district YouTube channel for your convenience. And Dr. Wright, will you lead us in the pledge, please? And we come to item 7, approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now to our highlight tonight. It's my great honor to take a moment to recognize and express our deepest appreciation for Dr. Damon Wright. Dr. Wright, your unwavering dedication, insightful leadership, and genuine compassion have left an indelible mark on all of us. You have not only shared your expertise and vision with clarity and purpose, but you've also inspired us through your integrity and your humility. You have added new systems throughout our school district. You have shown how transparent communication can enhance trust, foster collaboration, and create a culture where everyone feels valued and informed. Through your mentorship, your thoughtful guidance, and your tireless commitment to excellence, you've lifted those around you and created a space where people feel seen, supported, and empowered. On behalf of all of us, thank you for your exceptional contributions and for being a model of what it means to lead with heart and wisdom. We are truly grateful for you. We wish you the best in your new position with Santa Clara School District. Thank you, Dr. Wright.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you need tissue?
I don't do this well. I fell doing my slide out the back door.
The board. We slid it onto your desk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
And does anyone have anything else to say? And then I'd like to invite Dr. Gethsemane Moss to the podium.
Hello, good evening, Superintendent and trustees. I want to say thank you for this opportunity to be here. Again, my name is Dr. Gethsemane Moss. I just want to say on a personal note that I really enjoyed being able to serve with you, Dr. Wright, on the board. I'm glad that I was part of the process when we hired you onto the board. And we are going to, we hate to see you leave, but we understand that, sometimes opportunities come up, but we want to thank you for the work that you've done, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to work with you. And my kids were in school when you were a principal also. So what I'm here representing the office of Senator Christopher Cabaldon, and I have a very special acknowledgement for you on his behalf, Dr. Wright. So I'm going to read this. As a senator representing District 3, I am proud to recognize Dr. Damon Wright, a passionate and accomplished educational leader with over 25 years of service to public education. Guided by the belief that education is the great equalizer, Dr. Wright has led with a commitment to academic excellence, equity, and fiscal responsibility. As superintendent of the Benicia Unified School District, he has delivered measurable results, improving instructional outcomes, securing millions of dollars in funding through funding for facility upgrades, while fostering community trust through transparency. His dedication to student success is evident in his focus on closing achievement gaps, supporting social emotional development, and expanding college and career readiness. With numerous accolades, including multiple Administrator of the Year honors and active membership in key professional organizations, Dr. Wright continues to be a visionary leader committed to empowering all students and transforming challenges into opportunities. Thank you for your outstanding service to the Benicia Unified School District and your unwavering dedication to the community, from the office of Senator Christopher Cabaldon and the state of California. So here it is here for you.
You want to come stand with her?
And now we come to reports and Dr. Wright.
All right. Well, thank you for all the kind words. I really appreciate it. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to lead this organization for the last 3 years. It's meant a lot, and saying goodbye is difficult. I say to everyone, I slide out the back door before it gets to that part. So I'm known for that. So, but thank you for everything, and thank you for acknowledging me this evening. It means a lot to me. In terms of our superintendent report, God, what a way to close the year with our graduation and promotions. You know, seeing the excitement in our students as they promote to the next level, the pride in their parents as they're watching them and their family members. It's a nice way to close the year out. And a lot of work goes on behind the scenes. And I don't know if you know this, but the sound system at the high school went out the week prior to graduation at the Powder Puff game. And our IT department, you know, they called, and I said, you know what? No, don't take any chances. Go rent one. Go find it. We'll figure it out. But they worked relentlessly to get it fixed. Behind the scenes, they worked with the contractors. So just thank you, Bruce, Mike, Alfredo, maintenance and operations, Rocky Kim. They all played a part in getting it to work. And I know I'm leaving people out, but thank you for everyone that had a role in making that sound system work for graduation. I know that it took up their week to make it happen. I also want to acknowledge our maintenance and operations department. 7 promotions, back to back to back, and they're there with a smile on their face, setting up chairs and taking them down. And there's just things that we don't always see or we don't always acknowledge. We see the great ceremony, but those that are setting up and breaking those things down, and they do it with a smile. And we're just lucky to have an outstanding team. So I just want to thank them. And I also just want to thank our school sites for putting on outstanding promotions and graduation ceremonies, because they were awesome. And that's all I have this evening.
I concur. It was, the graduations and the promotions were wonderful. I was able to attend Joe Henderson, the promotion, and I like it so much. I love how they do it. And it's inside and it's lit up. It's just so beautiful, the whole thing. So, and the high school was amazing, and so was Liberty. So thanks for, I'm happy I was able to be part of that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Wright, for your speech at the Benicia High graduation.
Oh, yeah.
It was really good, and it spoke to a lot of us listening. So I heard a lot of very favorable comments about your speech. I too was able to attend the promotions and the graduations. I also, in addition to with Trustee Zeta, in addition to that, I also was able to attend Matthew Turner, Mary Farmer, and Robert Semple. And they did a tremendous job, all of the schools. I think President Grubbs is probably going to talk about something that she and I did together for Matthew Turner with the Sharks.
Oh, you better remind me.
Oh, okay. President Grubbs and I also attended a 5th grade
Oh, yes.
Shark Tank
Shark Tank.
simulation.
Yes.
And Dr. Beatson was there. And Stephanie Rice was there. And we owe people a lot of money. We owe a lot of money, but the students came up with proposals for inventions. And there was one that I was especially excited about. It was like a Roomba, but it was for your walls and your ceilings. I thought it was great.
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, we owe a lot of money right now, but the students did a terrific job, and thanks to the 5th grade team for putting that together. It was awesome. Lastly, I wanted to say I attended a CAP meeting last night, the Community Advisory Panel with Valero, and the topic was, what is the impact of the anticipated closure going to have on the different groups that participate in the CAP, at-large members, the chamber, the industrial park group, and then the school district, as well as the city. And we were each able to go around and share the concerns that we've heard. Valero shared that they've been very focused on their employees right now. So talking to their employees about the transition, hoping that people stay employed to allow the refinery to continue running until the anticipated closure date. One thing that I shared last night and that I'd like to repeat here is we talk a lot about money, the impact of money of Valero leaving. But I also want to talk about the impact of the people leaving. And one person in particular is Paul Adler. Paul is I'm not positive of his title, but he's the community and government outreach liaison, right, for Valero. He does so much in this community. Paul is part of Rotary. He's part of Kiwanis. He keeps us updated on all things. I really think through Paul, the reason that the district receives money from community organizations, I mean, that's Paul. Paul always has the kids first, and he's just an absolute pleasure and a great person to work with. So I want to thank Paul Adler for all of his service. I don't know where Paul will end up or if he even knows yet, but I'm sure that he will continue to do that, and whoever is able to benefit from Paul is very lucky. So thank you to Paul.
And so I was able to go to the graduations and the and Benicia Middle School promotion, which is really fantastic. But I do have to give a shout out to the maintenance team because they are a well-oiled machine, and they get those chairs out and they get them all in before the kids are practically off campus. You know, I mean, they are so organized. So a big shout out to maintenance because I know it's a huge job. I also want to just say give a shout out to the Matthew Turner 5th grade team. They did the Shark Tank, and there was lots of give and take. So, you know, it was very much like the show. They presented, and they would say, well, they would like $40,000, and they would offer 10% of their company. And so we would have this exchange, right? Well, you know, I'll offer you $25,000 and 50% of your company. And they were so good because they could actually come back and they were very articulate. They had their numbers down. And one of my favorite inventions was, and as a former teacher, you know, really I love this one. So this group had decided that they could make blocks to keep kids from falling over when they leaned back in their chairs.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It was fabulous. I actually invested in that company, I want you to know. So it was really great. So
Were there fierce negotiators up there? Or were they pushing back? Yeah.
yes. But I didn't negotiate too much with keep the kids from falling back, over in their chair because it was a winner.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Now we come to comments from the public, and I'll read my little spiel. Members of the public may address the board at a regular meeting on any items within the board's jurisdiction. Speaker cards are available at the entrance table. Please note the item you wish to speak to and submit a card to the board secretary. The board president will call all the open session general comments, Government Code Section 54954.3, during the public comment item. Comments for items on the agenda will be called during the specific item. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, or the board may limit the total time to 20 minutes per item with the timer displayed on the monitors. By law, no action may be taken on any item raised during public comment periods, and matters may be referred to staff for placement on a future agenda of the governing board. Please be reminded to keep your comments respectful as students may be watching the board meeting. Thank you. Do we have any comments? And moving on, approval for the consent calendar.
I'll move. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Cut you off.
Sorry. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussion on roll call votes unless discussion of items is requested by the board member. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, no, sorry, this is supposed to be a roll call. I apologize. So, President Grubbs.
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch.
Yes.
Trustee Seda.
Yes.
Excellent.
And as we go on, I'd like to really acknowledge some of the generous gifts that, that have been given to the district. The Brian Douglas Opus One Winery, designated to the Joey Douglas Memorial Scholarship to Benicia High School Student Scholarship Fund in the amount of $500. And to the Kiwanis Club of Benicia, one book for every third grader in each of our elementary schools to support all students reading at grade level by third grade, with an estimated donor value of $2,177.51. So we appreciate those very generous gifts. Thank you so much.
And we do have to take the roll call on item I, the resolution under the consent calendar. And that goes with the same motion. So right now, I'll just do the roll call. So President Grubbs,
Yes.
Trustee Hirsch,
Yes.
and Trustee Seda.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then presentation, we are on to item 12, presentations and communication. And Dr. Wright, you are up.
Okay, thank you. So the Policy Review Committee, we met on May 27th to take a look at the CSBA policies brought forward today. This is the first reading, so we encourage the board to take a look at that, and we'll be bringing these policies back for approval at our next governing board meeting.
Okay. Moving on. We have a public hearing. So I'm going to close this from open session and open public hearing for the conveyance of a temporary easement to the City of Benicia, Mary Farmer Elementary pedestrian bridge construction. And Ms. Egan.
Good evening. Tonight, the resolution before you is for discussion and consideration for a temporary construction easement for the Mary Farmer Elementary School pedestrian bridge to the City of Benicia. The project is funded and will be built, and it's contracted through the City of Benicia. The scope is replacement of the pedestrian bridge, yay, and adjacent walkway improvements. Their schedule for completion is late fall 2025, barring unforeseen conditions. And this is a great benefit to BUSD, the Mary Farmer community, and also the City of Benicia. So staff recommendation is to approve the resolution and award the temporary construction easement.
Right now, it's just the public hearing.
Oh, sorry, okay. You're welcome.
So now I'm going to close that.
There are no public comments for the record.
Oh, sorry, public comments. I'm going to close the public session, the public hearing, and then open it up to the public hearing and discussion of the local control and accountability plan, which is Dr. Beetson.
Good evening, President Grubbs, trustees, cabinet members. I'm excited to bring to you tonight our draft LCAP, Local Control Accountability Plan for the 25-26 school year. I'm going to take you through a series of slides that give an overview of what the whole entire process is, our annual update, how we get our funding for the LCAP, the requirements for educational partner engagement, the metrics and data that we use to develop the LCAP, our goals, actions, and services, a section on increased and improved services, which are for our students who are in our unduplicated student groups, and then a quick budget summary. I won't spend too long on that because I know we'll probably hear a little bit more about that with Ms. Barrington's budget presentation next. I always start with our vision and our mission because it grounds all the work that we do, really focusing on inclusive community, cultivating equitable and responsive environments, empowering students, developing strong character and academic excellence so that they become well-rounded global citizens. And back in 2022, our equity team drafted and created our equity statement. Says many of the same things, but really focuses on our historically marginalized students' voices, cultures, and identities to make sure that their stories are valued and celebrated, and to make sure that all of our students thrive. And we'll do that by dismantling barriers and advancing policies and practices that support our diverse community. And I hope as I take you through the LCAP, you're going to see this come to life. So very quickly, and I can slow down at any point, but some of this will be repetitive because it's part of the process. I just wanted to remind everyone what the LCAP process is and what the requirements are. So back in 2013, our funding for public education changed in the state of California, and the local control funding formula became law. Along with that came the requirement for all districts to write an LCAP, which shows how are we going to spend the funding that we get from the state. The real focus on LCAPs is for our supplemental funding, which is the funding that is direct to increase and improve services for our low-income students, our homeless students, and our English learner students. In Benicia Unified, we expand that so that people have a broader picture of what the educational program looks like. The other requirement in the LCAP process is that we do consultations with lots of different groups, including parents, staff, and students. There is a required template, which you have in front of you, so we can't make any changes to that. There is a section, I always call these sort of the chapters, the annual update. And that part means, what did we say we were going to do this year, and did we do it? What did we say we were going to spend this year, and did we do it? There's a whole section on metrics and local indicators, goals, actions, and services. And then we have to call out in the LCAP the increased and improved services. So it's not in addition to what's in the goals, actions, but we have to call it out separately again in another section. And then there's compliance. So we have to have a public hearing, which we're doing this evening. Next Tuesday, we'll bring this back to you for adoption. If there are any public comments that come in for consideration, we'll take those into consideration and bring back a revised LCAP if that's necessary. Then it goes to the county office over the summer. They'll meet with me and do an approval process. And then once they approve it, they send it off to the state for the final approval. So this is part of the annual update. So we have 4 goals. This page talks about 2 of them, sense of belonging and equity. This is where I tell you that we have implemented almost all of the actions that we set out to do when we wrote this year's LCAP for this current year. A couple of changes. We offered fewer parent workshops than we had anticipated this year. A year ago, we were able to offer a lot. This year kind of got away from us. Our capacity to do that was limited. The other thing that did not happen is we had intended to revitalize again our grading for equity team, and with the other committees that we had, we just didn't have a response, and so we decided to intentionally pause that. There are teachers still doing some of that work, but as a system, we weren't in a position to be able to really launch that well, so we decided to pause that. A couple of data highlights from our annual update, and I'm not going to spend a long time on data because I've done those data presentations over the years, but something that I think we all should be super proud of is one of the surveys that we send out asks a question, which is just overall, how satisfied are you with the program at Benicia Unified School District? And you can see that in 2022, we were at 55%, we went to 84.4%, and then this year's was 94.2%, which says a lot about the work that's happening here in Benicia Unified. Another big data point, there's been a lot of work, as you know, on attendance and chronic absenteeism, and a reminder that chronic absenteeism is being out 10% or more of the days that we are in school. And so there's a big decline, and I hear moving forward, it's even better for this school year. So this is all, remember, last year's school data. And then our students with disabilities graduation rate increased, and we decreased in suspension. So those are all really good data points that go along with those 2 goals. And then the 2 academic goals, literacy and humanities, math and STEAM, same thing, almost everything was fully implemented. The one that we weren't able to was to fill the College and Career Center at Benicia High School. That work is continuing, but not with a dedicated position there. And again, I've already spent time going over the academic data growths that we made, and this was from last year's data. So we don't have this year's yet, but last year's data, we saw some great increases. Funding for our LCAP comes in a lot of different ways. We have our local control funding formula funds. We get supplemental funds, which is a 20% adjustment of our base grant. We get a small amount of Title I, that's federal money, and that goes to fund some intervention specialists at our elementary schools. We have state and federal one-time grants, which have been able to offer lots of services over the last several years since COVID, and then a little bit in donations. So these are the one-time grants, which funds a lot of what's in this current LCAP. As you remember, in 2020, we got some one-time grants that rolled in from the state of California to the tune of about $14 million. We stretched those out. Next year will be the last year of those funding dollars. One, because we're running out, and two, because they have to be spent by the end of next school year. So we aren't able to keep everything in the LCAP. So over the last couple of years, as you remember, we've been sort of winnowing down based on data, based on input, based on effectiveness, what we've been able to include, and I'll walk you through where we're heading with that for next school year. One of the requirements is to engage with different educational partners, and so this is just showing you how we do that. We do it through some video information, some surveys. We have an LCAP team that meets monthly that has staff and parents and students on it, and then we also consult with our county office, our equity teams, other teams in the district. One of the pieces that we have to do in the LCAP is show that we are meeting what are called the 8 state priorities. And so on this page, you're going to see 4 of them. On the next slide, you'll see another 4. And those are really the data points, and then our actions are supposed to show how are we meeting those data points. In the brownish color down below, you're going to see met on various things, because some of them are data that we would pull from our dashboard, or how did we do on the CASP, and others are self-reflections of how we do internally, okay? Any questions on that? Okay. And then this is the other set of 4 state priorities that have to show up in our different actions and services. So just a few more pieces of data that now, as we're starting to lean into how do we build this next year's LCAP, we have to look back at our data. What is our data telling us? And then we try to continue to grow that. I did link on the bottom of this slide the other presentations which went into more depth, so I just highlighted a few of our data celebrations this year. And then some identified needs, and so some of that was around college and career readiness for students with disabilities, and we're having conversations about what could that look like, how can we increase student participation in some of those courses. And our long-term English learners, this is a new student group this year that is being tracked on the California dashboard. And those are students who have been with us as an English learner, but haven't reclassified, haven't gained proficiency in all 4 areas of the test that they have to take every year for 7 years. And so once they've been with us for 7 years and haven't gotten they basically have to get a perfect score on this assessment, then they become what's called a long-term English learner. Okay, mostly it's kids in upper grades because we teach them all the way through, but if we can't pass them on all 4, so that's a student group we're working on. And then we have just a couple of areas that were in the red across the district that you can see over on the right side of your screen. And then the other thing to note is oh my gosh, it's not called program improvement anymore, but it used to be called program differentiated assistance. That is at the district level when we don't meet for 2 student groups over 2 indicators for 2 years, we can get into differentiated assistance. As a district, we are not in. However, we are in, but then we also have, from the federal level, it goes to the school site level, and that's called additional targeted support and intervention, and so we have 2 schools that are in that for suspensions. And basically what we have to do is really monitor that and work to improve those areas. The other data point that we look at is our surveys, and I told you about one of the surveys already. The other survey went out this year, and it really asked folks to prioritize the actions and services in the LCAP because we knew that we weren't going to be able to continue all of them. So it was important to get their voice in what can we continue. And so we got a really great results from our survey, and you can see the results there. Yes, those are the 4 right LCAP goals to keep. Keep doing mental health and intervention services. Band and Willie B. Atkins came out on the top, making sure that we continued with some technology support. And then we got some support technology and some concerns around technology. I think that was mostly around the what kids could access, and so we've taken that feedback. And then on combination classes. So the feedback summary was what things to add and keep. You can see that on the left side of the screen, and then what we were able to adjust. And we are very happy that for funding for band, because it was always paid with one-time dollars and it was never in our general fund, we are able to move that to Prop 28 funding and continue to support that important program. And then the Benicia Library contract. So as a district, we have to have a district librarian with particular credentials. We don't employ one as the district, but we can contract with Benicia Public Library to act as our district librarian. And in working with Ms. Barrington, we determined that we have to have that, otherwise we get a red flag from CTC, and so that moved into the general fund. So here are our 4 LCAP goals. Those have not changed. In here you will see a lot of the language around equity work and ensuring we're closing achievement gaps and continuing to grow. And so then based on all of that feedback, here are the actions and services that will not be in the 25-26 LCAP. So it's kind of a double negative. We will have combination classes at some of our elementary schools next year. So the extra teachers we were able to fund to avoid that over the last 4 or 5 years, that funding is gone. We aren't able to continue the 20% math coach at Benicia Middle School. I've talked about moving the Prop 28 money for funding for band and the contract for the library to the general fund. After lots of conversation, we eliminated the college and career counseling position at Benicia High School, and I know that the high school administration is working closely with the other counseling department to pick up that work and with their admin team as well. Literacy intervention, we fund a couple of sections previously for literacy intervention at Benicia Middle School, and our teacher got very creative and created a new course called Dramatic Literacy, where they will do some readers theater and different ways to engage students in this course, and so we were able to fund that with Prop 28 dollars. We eliminated a position out of Ed Services Department. It was a teacher on special assignment, and the elementary STEAM wheel, which I think we've talked about before, was funded by donation by Valero. At this point is eliminated out of the LCAP because we don't have a funding stream. I will say as an aside, I've gotten lots of inquiries about that, and so we're going to be putting together a team to come together and do some brainstorming about other funding potential sources. So I've got that hopefully coming up in a couple of weeks.
Happy to hear that.
Yes. So what is in the 25-26 LCAP? This is the list. I'm not going to walk you through all of it. Many of it, there's really not new things except for one that I want to point out. But I have stars next to the things that are contributing to increasing improved services for our unduplicated students, and all, but targeted there. And then the little ampersand, no, that's not called an ampersand, that little A with the circle on it, is the actions and services that are continuing to be paid with one-time dollars, and this will be the last year of those. But all the way over on the right, under equity, supporting inclusive practices, I think I might have given you some of this information in a board update, but we were accepted into a grant for the state of California to really provide professional development, coaching, all sort. We can create the program however we want to really look at and it's about equity and inclusion and how do we continue to grow in that area. And so we're thrilled about that. It costs us nothing. We actually will get some grant money from that to help provide professional development to staff. So that's exciting. And then just quickly, the budget summary, the circle on the left, and Ms. Barrington, jump in if I go awry. The circle on the left is the total LCFF funding, and then over on the right, the circle on the left is all of the funding, and then the circle over on the right pulls out the LCFF and shows you the breakdown of supplemental and local control funding formula dollars. And then this slide just shows you the difference between our total general fund and what's in the LCAP. And then the last page just has all the acronyms. Any questions?
Just one. And that is, okay, so we do a new LCAP every 3 years?
We do, the LCAP is a 3-year LCAP, it's a 3-year cycle, but we update it every year. And so
Okay.
this is this year's the first year of this LCAP.
Okay.
Next year's, this one I'm presenting tonight will be the second in the 3-year LCAP. So we do smaller input sessions on the in-between years, the 26-27 school year. We'll, as we are in the third year, we will do a much bigger outreach and redo the whole LCAP again. This time when we did it though, the feedback was keep those LCAP goals. They're still the right goals. And so we had some change, but not as much changes in previous cycles.
Well, that's great. I think I'm getting my years mixed up because I know I participated in some of the feedback sessions. I just couldn't remember if it was for this one or the prior one. But thank you for doing all of that work. This is very detailed. And you keep us informed on all of this. It's great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And attached to your board packet, you have the entire LCAP in its entirety, so for your reading pleasure. And there were no public comments for that other public.
Ms. Berry.
Hey, good evening, Governing Board and Dr. Wright. Before you is the 25-26 proposed budget and the multi-year projections. This is the public hearing with adoption next week on Tuesday. And it can have items incorporated in it if there is public comment that comes forward, especially if there's anything that has to do with the LCAP. So in our annual cycle, we are at adopt budget. We've almost made it all the way around and we'll get to start over again. But we do have to have an adopted budget by June 30th so that on July 1st we can move into the next year, as does the state, so that we can have funding flowing. And then we will continue around the cycle as the year goes on. Okay. So for 25-26, what I wanted to start with was highlighting our district enrollment projections and the ADA trends. So on the positive, we've seen our ADA come really, really close to 95%, so I rounded for now. But what we are seeing is while our ADA is up to 95%, our projected enrollment is declining. In these numbers, what was taken into account are the birth rates that we can see for the city of Benicia, which are falling into the 180s, 190s for each year babies born. So there are more conservative projections for our TK and kindergarten, and then our larger classes are moving out, so that's what's going through here. What is not in here is any impact that our neighboring districts may have on our enrollment if there are changes to their IDA processes. Any questions on our enrollment?
I'm just very sad to see it go down so much. Looking back at the 2014-15, we were at 4,900 plus, and now we're, it's, let's see, we're projected out for 28, 29, 3,900. That's a big gap.
It is.
So people move to Benicia, have babies, and enroll them in BUSD.
And those are conservative, and they'll be updated every time we see changes to our enrollment. And we're on track right now for what we think for 25, 26. But, we'll continue to enroll all summer long for people that live in Benicia, get our kids in.
I did ask city council member about the proposed Rose Estates plan and when they thought that would go in, like when, because it sounds like it's gonna happen. I don't know for sure if that's the case, but assuming it does, he said he didn't think they would even start building for a couple of years. Yeah, so it could be a ways out.
Yes.
And when they do build, will families with young children be able to purchase those homes? And that's a big if.
Right.
So,
I think, weren't they looking at some kind of affordable housing there also?
yes, I think that's the law, but it's, what does affordable housing mean?
I hear you. Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. Thank you.
Okay, taking a look at our revenue assumptions, because we'll start with the revenue first. Our largest revenue source is our LCFF, the local control funding formula, which we are able to have as long as we have our LCAP, and so that's why you hear the LCAP first. Built into this funding projection is the estimated enrollment of the 4284, which is a decline at this point of 63 kids from the current year right now that we're in. At a 95% rate, the ADA would be lower than the 24-25 year, so the funding formula for 25-26 is utilizing prior year to hold us harmless, so as we ease into that decline. So for 25-26, as long as our 24-25 ADA stays at what is projected here when we get all said and done for the year, that's what we'll be funded on for next year. Our unduplicated pupil count is just over 25%. Also included in the projection is the COLA that was put forth at the May revise to be funded at 2.3%. And what this does is, and the graphic's a little small, but I included it because it's from one of the back pages of all the SACS forms that you have, where it takes a look at what's the impact going to be to your district for your enrollment and the impact on your LCFF funding. So we talk a lot about the COLA might be 2.3%, but will we see that? Because we're going to be held harmless at ADA, next year we should see 2.3% increase on our LCFF funding in 25-26. But if you do look at the next two columns, you can see that the COLA is projected to be 3.02%, but we're not going to see that. And that's as our enrollment declines, our ADA declines, we no longer garner the full COLA. So our funding is also decreasing as our enrollment is decreasing. For the other revenue sources, for federal, we do have our title programs projected to be funded at this time. Everything we've heard is Title I will be funded. Special education, also the IDEA funding, it is still stated to be funded. On the local side, we do have some rents and leases. It does include cell towers for now, but we know that those could be sunsetting. We still do get some donations, and we do active LEA Medi-Cal billing, as well as the administrative side. For state funding, lottery has some higher rates, so the more people play, the more revenue we do see come in. The mandated block grant has rates you can see there. It doesn't offset all the things we're mandated to do, but it is a small offset. It doesn't fund everything we're mandated to do. It's a nice, tiny little offset. And for special education, we receive state funding, which is called AB 602, as well as some state mental health. ELOP, that's kind of, that's the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. It's kind of an unknown. If the threshold is changed from 75% to 55% for the Tier 1 funding, a larger portion of the funding goes to those districts. We do not fall into that. We're below 55% for unduplicated. So for right now, the per ADA amount is unknown. So what we're projecting, best we know, is similar to what we have this year, but as that's updated, when the trailer bill language comes through, we will provide updates to you if we have to make any modifications to our ELOP program. And then we will continue to get Prop 98 funding for the arts. Prop 28. Did I say? I did. Huh? Prop 28 is a subset pulled off of Prop 98. It doesn't go to Prop 98 anymore. But. So this is just a graphic of our largest funding source, LCFF, and you just can kind of see how it's put together, what makes up the $50.9 million that the district does receive that funds most of our TK-12 programs. We receive the supplemental grant. We do not receive concentration because we're below 55%. We do get a TK add-on. That is something that we may see more of a TK add-on if that makes it all the way through, which will be of assistance to the district since TK is now 10-to-1 with a 20-child cap in a room. So we have to have more TK classes because we have a limitation on how many students to adult we can have in a room. So that will be helpful as an offset because we do have an increased number of TK classes that we have to have this year, next year, for the number of TK students we have and the lower ratio.
And that amount is less than the total of the 3 top portions? That amount is less than the 772?
Yes, it's 153,000 of it.
Oh. And does that fund our TK? Fully fund?
No, it
No.
funds one teacher.
Oh.
But it's an add-on, so it's supposed to fund the addition of the expense, the classrooms that you have to add and everything. So at this time, it's not offsetting the full increase of the cost, but that is the governor's intent, is to move towards giving some additional funding to kind of offset the impact it's having on districts. So this is a graphic as well as letting you know the various revenues for the district as a whole. As you can see, 80% of our revenues are the LCFF, with the remaining balances coming in with federal, state, and local that funds our district as a whole. Any questions on revenues before I move on to the expenditure side? Okay. So our assumptions for expenditures, just like revenue, we have various factors that go into creating the expenditure side of our budget. STRS and PERS are always taken into account. STRS has been stable. PERS is increasing. It didn't increase as much as it had been projected, but 26.81% of somebody's salary is still a sizable amount that impacts our budget. Also included are the step and column increases that happen on the natural per ed code. Our payroll-driven mandatories are the same except for workers' comp. Our workers' compensation rate has increased, and that's just based on actual claims that we've had and input that we've had to our pool. Our usage is greater, therefore we have a higher rate that has to be recovered. CPI is the Consumer Price Index. It's expected to be around 3.42%, so we take that into account when projecting our supplies, goods, and services. Within our budget, we must have 3% set aside for routine restricted maintenance. So 3% of our actual expenditures must be transferred over to a restricted account to maintain our facilities. And the two items on the right side are not additional funds, they're just subsets within the LCFF. So within the LCFF, 2.4 million of it is set aside for supplemental, and then 8.5% has to do, 8.5 million has to do with that education protection account that you did a resolution for earlier, which states that we will use that portion of the money on instructional salaries and benefits, not administration. But it's a subset within LCFF. So on the unrestricted side of our budget, this is a breakdown of our salaries, benefits, books and supplies, our contracts and services. We do not have any projections for capital outlay on the unrestricted side at this time. We do have other outgoes that has to come in, and indirect costs are negative because they're charged to restricted programs that then comes back over into the unrestricted, and that's to provide the necessary supports of business and HR and curriculum that are they're generally held instead of applying the expenses to each department. And we continue to have our salary and benefits greater than 90% of our unrestricted budget. And that includes all of our staff, our extra duty, our stipends, our subs. That's what a majority of the unrestricted costs are for. Any questions on the unrestricted side of our budget? Okay. On the restricted side, you can see how the breakdown is. Our salary and benefits are just under 80% of the restricted, but the restricted side of our budget are for specific things. You receive funding that has specific requirements. It's where our one-time funds are. It's where our special ed program is. It's where our maintenance and operations for routine restricted maintenance is. It's our title programs. Any grant we receive that says this is how you must use it, that's the restricted side of our budget. So it can't, it does not ever offset the unrestricted. The unrestricted side would always contribute over to the restricted side if the funding is not sufficient for our programs. So combined, this is what our general fund expenditures look like, with the majority of our resources going to our staff to support our students, with the remaining slices of the pie you can see there. Any questions on our expenditures of our budget? As I said, oftentimes the unrestricted side must contribute to the restricted side for a number of reasons. Special education is one of them. It's not a fault of special education. It's a fault of the amount of funding that comes in for our special education. But we do have to make sure that we can hold the program whole. So there is a contribution from the unrestricted side to special ed. There is also the next one, the routine restricted maintenance. That's our required 3%. Years ago, we put in solar, so we have to continue to contribute to pay the solar loan, as well as our title programs have a small contribution to support the teachers that are in those intervention programs. So put together, this is a picture of our ending fund balance at the end of the year for 25-26, if everything was to be held exactly how it is projected here. We begin the year on the unrestricted side with the beginning fund balance of 7.8 million. You add in the revenues, subtract your expenditures, your contributions go over, and we will have deficit spending of approximately 1.6 million if nothing was to change. And then you can see the components at the bottom of how that is broken out. We do have within our ending fund balance, our reserves, a sufficient amount to fund our 3% required reserve and the additional 1 month of payroll, or about 5%. That's board driven, as well as covering textbook needs, part of the commitment into next year. With the remaining in that word assignment there, that area, and that is then utilized in the multi-year projections out. So that leaves our reserves for 25-26 at 9.38%. So the general fund isn't the only fund we have. We have many others, and this is just a summary of those. All of these funds will have positive balances. They are able to fund themselves. If any one of these was to fall below their revenue, the general unrestricted budget and the general fund would have to contribute over potentially. For Fund 11, 12, and 13, all the other funds are funded within themselves. Fund 21 is how we're spending the bond. So after all of next year's expenditures, we project to still have 26.3 million to move into the next year for our building. Fund 40 is also part of the construction that has to do with the high school performing arts building. Fund 51, we never get to touch. That is 100% controlled by the county treasurer. That's where they collect the taxes from our residents and pay the loans on our bonds. And then Fund 73, the bottom one, those are private scholarships that were set up that then are awarded to our high school seniors with requirements to keep certain balances. Okay. Before I move on to what the out years look like, any questions on 25, 26?
This might be kind of an outer years question, but I read in the news that the governor is proposing what they're calling a maneuver in the budget. I think this is the same thing as last year, where he's proposing potentially borrowing from future years to fund this year.
So he's proposing to underfund 25, 26.
Oh,
In case taxes don't come in as they do, because what happened, if you remember back in 22, 23, they gave this nice extra 6.7% to the districts, and then they didn't collect that much. So we're still paying that back from the future. So in order to avoid that, the full Prop 98 that's supposed to go to districts isn't funded. So that's what you hear about. As well as the June payment, we will not get in June. We will have to recognize it as though we did, but they will not give it to us until July because it works on the books for the state to meet their budget.
but that's not a done deal yet because there's threatened litigation. I think
Yes.
I read.
Yes.
Okay.
So last year there was a large pushback because every time you underfund Prop 98, you lower the base for then the next year. And so the longer you do that, you've lost funding
Yeah.
for your students.
And
State.
Prop 98 is a minimum amount that we're supposed to get.
40% of the state's budget.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so for 26, 27, and 27, 28, which seem like really far out years, but they are year 2 and 3 in the multi-year projections. I included this graphic from school services because it kind of highlights what a multi-year projection is and what a multi-year projection is not. It is mathematical calculation of what we know right now. It is not, it's not a crystal ball. It's not a forecast that means we got it wrong. It's just what we know right now until something else changes. So our out years could look better. They could look worse. We always hope that they look better, but we don't budget on hope, so we do as conservative as possible. There's a lot of information on here, but this is the assumptions, just like you saw in the 25-26 year. These are the assumptions used for both the revenue as well as the expenditures. And you can see the estimated COLA is again above 3% in the out years. But as we saw for 25-26, when you were here a year ago, you heard that the COLA for 25-26 was supposed to be 2.93%. It's down to 2.3. Those out year COLAs could decrease. They may not. They could not fund them fully. They could. But it's just something we'll have to watch with all the indicators coming in with property tax. And then you see that on the expenditure side, the PERS rates are increasing, CPI is changing. We kind of keep workers' comp, we keep it level because we don't really know. Our rate could go down, our rate could go up. Our district works really hard to mitigate issues that result in workers' comp cases, so that has an impact on those. And then the two bottom, the lottery and mandate, those are the rates that have come out from the state as they are projected by ADA. So as our ADA decreases, so does the amount of funding we get from those sources also. So for our largest funding source, LCFF, this is kind of just a highlight of what it might do to our funding. So it looks like our net change, as long as everything stays the same, COLA does, our students come at the funded ADA rate, we should see about $1.1 million in increase each year. That is good. It does not fully cover our costs that we don't have any choice in when goods and services increase, the ongoing step and column, our utilities are going up, Our liability insurance is increasing with all the past legal cases that now have different statutes of limitations. So there's a lot of things that do impact us. For our LCFF, we expect, based on these projections, in 26-27 to move into the 3-year prior average. And that will hold true for 27-28 also, because as they're declining, the prior is lower, but you get to have 3 years averaging out. So it kind of makes the decline in revenue a little less harsh to the district. Gives us time to plan. This is a combination of the revenues and expenditures we expect to see and the impact that it's going to have on our ending fund balance. So with all factors holding the same, you can see what our reserves look projected to be in 26-27. We could fall to the 7.73%. In 27-28, the 6.25%. What that means is we have sufficient reserves for our 3% required. We get to 27-28 where we do no longer have enough to fulfill the board commitment for 1 month of payroll, which is to help us be prepared should there be significant changes. These items in that 2 out years will change as we see what our enrollment actually does and how our attendance is and if there's changes in funding at the state level.
And at what point do we become, I forgot the word for it. Yeah, qualified.
You're below 3%.
Oh, okay.
When you're below 3% in one of the years. So if you're in year 2, you're below 3%, you become qualified. You don't want to ever be below 3% in the current or the first subsequent, because that means you've likely fallen to negative in the out, and you never want that. Or you're getting a lot closer to becoming negative in the current. But that's why we're constantly adjusting our multi-year projections and paying attention to our hiring practices and what we have going on in our budget. Okay. So based on our multi-year projections, next week when it comes before you to take action on the budget, you will be able to adopt a positive budget, which means we can make our commitments in the current and both years. Positive also means that our bond rating remains as high as it is, which is important for the bonds we need to sell in order to continue our construction projects. But what's most important is we can meet our financial obligations. Some of the things we need to continue to watch is, as we've been talking about, our enrollment, our ADA, our staffing, our deficit spending. Anytime you have deficit spending, you're utilizing one-time money to solve a problem. So we always have to monitor that because it reduces your reserves. Also, all of our one-time COVID dollars, they end and we will have fully spent them. We will ensure we spend all of them, that we don't have to return any of them. But we will need to continue to have conversations about our reserve levels. And then just watching our general fund contributions. We don't have a lot of say in that, but you know, our special ed program is doing everything it can to fulfill what is necessary within our IEPs, but to maintain costs the best that they can. So, kind of already said, you're gonna adopt next week. June 30th, the year ends, and then the business office works really hard to quickly close the books to bring the unaudited actuals back to you in September, and then we know really where our reserves stand. And then at the same time, we revise the 25-26 budget because everything will be adopted for you. Okay? So any additional questions?
Thank you for putting all that together. There's a lot of numbers, but I understand a little bit better of how we're doing it, how we're spending, and what we're expecting. And, you know, again, I hope our enrollment goes up. I hope having TK increases the amount of students we have, because then they'll continue through the district. So that's my hope. But thank you for putting all this together.
Are there any other questions, comments? And we'll move on to our action items. So we're at 13A, and Ms. Egan, you are back up. Oh, wait, I have to close the public hearing, and then I have to open it back up to. And there's no public comment. Thank you.
Hi again. I'm happy to give you a recap if you'd like one, or to answer any questions, or if you'd like to go forward. The staff recommendation is to approve the resolution and award the temporary construction easement to the City of Benicia to allow for the construction of the Mary Farmer Elementary School pedestrian bridge.
I have a question. So I know it's a temporary easement, so it'll end up coming back to Benicia Unified. Do we have an end date? Like, there's no date?
So the construction easement runs with the construction. So when the notice of completion is issued for the project, the easement will close.
Okay.
Before the notice and the closeout of the project, one of their requirements, stipulations, is that they have to return any area that they used for staging or other access to the condition equal to or prior to, or better than pre-construction.
Okay. And they're insured. They're insured for themselves
Yes.
as they do this project.
Yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the board adopt the resolution of conveyance.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, Mrs. Wright, you are up for, I think, the duration of the meeting. Welcome up.
Thank you. Can I hand this to you? All right. Right, good evening, board, cabinet, and BUSD community. My name is Stephanie Rice. I'm Director of Education Services. And the first thing I have for you is for a hopeful approval of the adoption of curriculum Moby Max by Moby Max Education for our elementary and middle school intensive academic programs. Now, I should have actually started. I have 6 things that I will be bringing forward. So yes, I'm up several times. The focus here is I'm bringing forward a curriculum to be adopted to support our students that are in our special education programs. In the past, I did not bring forward our additional curriculums that we were using in our special ed programs. We brought forward our core curriculums that our kids that have IEPs are utilizing or exposed to in different levels, but we definitely work with our special education teachers to look at how we're doing and what additional supports. And, you know, we feel with our LCAP goals, especially with our equity and inclusion and access for all students, that we want to be transparent with our community on the additional supports that we bring in to give access to all students. So the first curriculum, again, is Moby Max. It will be utilized at our elementary and middle school levels for an intensive academic programs, primarily to give the students access to grade level curricular content for science and social studies. An added benefit is that teachers also will have support. They can utilize it for ELA writing and math as well. But the primary focus really came from a science and social studies lens for this group of students. It is a digital platform that the teacher does teach into. It gives different assessments to be able to provide the teacher with where the student is so that they can then teach it in and provide access back for the student. So both the middle school teacher, Bonnie Ramirez, and our elementary teachers at Joe Henderson recommend that we bring this forward to support their students. Any questions on this curriculum?
Just a comment to say thank you for bringing the special ed curricula forward. I think it's great.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the adoption of curriculum for elementary and middle school intensive academic programs.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed, thank you.
And
Thank you.
Mrs. Rice.
So my next hopeful approval of the adoption of curriculum is for Number Worlds by McGraw-Hill. It's for our elementary and middle school intensive academics program again. So both programs, the students are exposed to our adopted curriculum, Everyday Math and CPM. But this program itself has an initial assessment that identifies what standards the students are struggling, and then it drills down to those skills that support that standard. So for example, place value or numbers and operations, you'll be able to pull a small group within your group of students to really provide them the support that they need. It's very hands-on. It does the I do, we do, you do model, and it's hands-on both with physical manipulatives as well as there's digital manipulatives built into this program as well. So again, both our middle school and our elementary intensive academic teachers agree in the alignment of wanting to bring forth this adoption so that our students at the elementary level as well as the middle school level will receive this additional support for mathematics. Any questions?
I'd like to move that we adopt the McGraw-Hill number worlds.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. And
You're still.
next, so the next hopeful approval of adoption is for the curriculum Spire from EPS Learning. It's for our elementary and middle school resource programs, and then also our elementary intensive academic program. Spire is a reading program. It is based on the Orton-Gillingham approach, the science of reading, where they focus on strong phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, spelling, fluency, and comprehension. One of the key pieces here is it's very formulaic. There's no guessing for the student of what the process of the lesson is. It's very intentional in its approach to support the students exactly where they are in that reading development. So this, alongside of, they're also getting our open court curriculum or our Amplify ELA at the middle school, but this is that additional tier 3 support to really hone in on students that are having a high needs or struggle in reading. It's also the recommended curriculum that supports students with dyslexia. So again, our middle school and elementary both recommend that this is the best support for our students in both the resource and our intensive academics at the elementary level. Any questions?
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the curriculum Spire.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And Ms. Rice,
Thank you.
you're still here.
You're gonna get tired of me.
No.
So for your hopeful approval of adoption of the curriculum Language Tree from Language Tree Online, it's for our middle school and high school, so our secondary newcomer English language learners, as well as our dually identified students in the intensive academic or functional academic programs. So this curriculum, let me rewind a little bit. You have already adopted ILIT ELL for our secondary middle school and our high school ELD programs. We've had some really strong data for our students that are not at our level 1, but our level 2 and 3. It's not hitting the mark for our level 1 or just really new to English students. So myself, Ms. Strassner, dug into this, brought this forward to teachers. This program seems like it's going to be really strong because it brings in video, audio, images. The students can listen to the words while they see it. They record themselves so the teacher can hear it, they can hear themselves back. So when we're in a classroom with multiple levels of English learners, the teacher can be teaching the ILIT ELL while the students have headsets on and are working on this, and then when the other kids are doing their assignments, they're then teaching in. The assessment format here reflects the format of the LPAC, as Dr. Beetson was talking about in her presentation earlier, which is the English Language Proficiency Assessment of California, a very rigorous assessment. So by giving the students the support and then the assessment platform that reflects what they're going to need to take each year will be a benefit for them. So this would be for our newcomer level 1 in our ELD courses, as well as to provide support to our intensive academic and our functional academic programs, because the students in those programs, because they have curriculum support, they don't have time in their schedule to take the ELD course. So we want to make sure that their special education teachers also have this curriculum to provide them with their designated ELD daily as well. So that's why it's both. Any questions on this curriculum?
I'll make a motion to adopt the curriculum language tree.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you.
Ms. Rice. Get in there. All right, the next one is for your hopeful approval of the adoption of curriculum known as ULS, Unique Learning Systems by Everway, for our elementary RISE programs and for our high school functional academic programs. This program addresses all core areas: English, math, science, and history, as well as has the social emotional learning component. The teachers gave raving reviews from our high school level to our elementary level on the engagement that it provides for the students at both levels, and also the ease of use for their students to be able to access this, as well as them, for teaching all the different, curriculums and having to adjust for each individual student. And they felt like this program really gave them the capability to be able to adjust for their individualized needs. It brings the Common Core content standards to the students so that they can access it at the level that they are at that moment. So again, I'm putting that forth. Do you have any questions?
I'll move that we approve the curriculum ULS, Unique Learning Systems.
I'll second.
Aye.
And you're still up.
Last one. This is for your hopeful approval of adoption for the curriculum Hands-on English from Ballard and Ty for our elementary dually identified students in our RISE program. And again, our RISE students get primarily their core materials from their teacher. They don't push in for the ELD time. So we want to make sure that our RISE teachers at Robert Simple currently have materials to provide that designated ELD, that their students that are have an IEP and are also multi-language learners have the right to have daily. This is a very hands-on program with lots of visuals and lots of opportunities for the students to be able to talk with sentence frames, etc. There's no cost to us because we do have this program from Ms. Strassner has used this, so we have some additional kits that she can leave at the site and we can share. But we think that this will be a really good program to bring into our littles at the elementary at the RISE level. Any questions?
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the adoption of the Ballard and Ty Hands-on English program.
And I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and we're sorry to let you go.
I'll be back next week.
And Dr. Jennings, you are up.
Thank you, President Grubbs. Up for your consideration and approval is the amended Chief Business Official Contract. California Ed Code 45197 specifies that school districts grant to classified employees annual vacation leave at the regular rate of pay, including classified management. The amended contract presented for board approval for the chief business official reflects alignment with this Ed Code and with the prior CBO's contract language.
And so then I will state that the specific contract language that's been amended to remove language related to a positive work calendar and include the accrual of vacation leave as required by Ed Code for all classified employees, including management. And then for the board's information, there are more specifics lined up for you. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Jennings? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the amended contract agreement for the CBO.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nobody opposed, thank you.
And then, Dr. Jennings, you have one more, the Brown Act? Nope. Oh, then I'd like to adjourn this meeting. It is 7:21. Thank you so much, everyone, and our